Hello, Brainerd Carey here, Director of Praxis Center. Today I want to talk a little bit about magic, the magic wand, magical thinking, and how this may enter into your process as an artist. So to begin with, magical thinking is often misunderstood. It's a psychological term, and Joan Didion, the late Joan Didion, an author, wrote a best-selling book called The Year of Magical Thinking. And what that book was largely about was her late husband's death, and how after he died, she kept having these kind of episodes for at least a year of magical thinking, which means that when she sees his shoes in the closet, she thinks, "Oh, he may need those for a special event." But he's dead, of course, right? He doesn't need those shoes, or other things like that. Maybe you have a pet that's died, or loved one, or a friend of any kind. Sometimes we think, oh, wow, this was such an exciting day. I'm going to call them up, your relative, your friend. And of course, they don't exist. Or you have a pet that died, and you think you see them out of the corner of your eye, or you hear them. This is magical thinking, and it's our brain kind of not completely accepting that death has happened, that someone is gone, and so we make up for it with what's called a magical thinking by kind of creating that, or letting that into our consciousness somehow. Again, one of the more common ways it happens is, if let's say your mother or father is gone, you think, oh, I had something exciting happened. I'm going to give them a call or ask them advice, but then you forget that they're not there. It happens in dreams a lot too. This type of magical thinking, where we're speaking or with people who are no longer living, and it seems completely normal to us. So I want to mention this because in art there's also a type of magical thinking, and we want something almost like a magic wand, right? These words are sometimes difficult to define, but how do we just make it all happen? How do we just kind of magically sell all this work and get it into a gallery, or gather enough strength to sell it online, to do what we want most of all, to follow our passion? How do we kind of harness that kind of, how do we wave our own magic wand so that can happen? Well, there's a number of ways that this can happen, but I'm trying to separate different aspects of magic. Magical thinking is, as I said earlier, is a way of perceiving things that aren't there. But there's also a type of thinking where you're projecting into the future and seeing things before they exist. So it's a common reiteration, a common phrase that you hear in kind of success-oriented books, to visualize your success, to imagine the shows that you're having, to see those shows. That is a type of magical thinking. That's a way of kind of waving a magic wand, so to speak, is to write down today how many shows you want to have this year. What kind of art you want to make for those shows. What else do you want to see happen? How much art do you want to sell every year? What's the actual amount of art you want to sell? So, you could say, I want to sell $10,000 or $100,000 worth of art this year. But then write down a little bit more. That's the projection, the magical thinking, the magic wand, right? But then if you're going to sell $100,000 worth of art, what does that mean exactly? Is that a certain amount of canvases? How many? 100, 10, 20? Is it works on paper, photographs, drawings, NFTs? Break down the plan of how that magic would occur, essentially, right? Because if you want to sell $100,000 or $10,000 worth, you have to have that much art, right? And if you don't have that much art, it either has to be much more expensive, or you have to lower your goal. So, this is again a way of that's talked about in a lot of kind of pop psychology books, of projecting what your future could be like, right? What's possible for you. And it's easy to kind of deny yourself these possibilities, that's actually not possible for me right now. But but it's also just as easy to dream, to imagine that, that your art is selling or at a gallery, or you're collaborating with somebody. Whatever it is that you want to see happen, imagine it, see it, visualize it, write it down. This is a type of magical thinking. It's something that is also concrete. It's not simply fantasy. We kind of become the things that we nurture. We become the things that we think about, the thoughts that are in our head all the time, right? So if the thought is in your head all the time of, this is what I want to see happen with my art, and maybe it's like an artist that you know, or maybe it's very specific to where you are in the world or what you're doing. If you have those thoughts in your head, that will help you to achieve those thoughts. That will help those thoughts to come true, because they're part of your plan. And it absolutely is a form of magical thinking, of magic, because though this has been talked about through the ages in all kinds of forms of psychology, philosophy, and religion, essentially what you imagine will happen to you, what you focus on a regular basis, will have an increased likelihood of happening, right? As opposed to the opposite. That's not going to happen to me. I can't do that. It's not going to work. You can be pretty sure it won't work then, or there's a very slim chance. But this isn't just about being positive or hoping for something. It's about seeing it, visualizing it, writing it down, and thinking about that every day. If you meditate, you can use it in a meditation, or if it comes down to a certain practice, like following some of the videos in this series and reaching out to galleries or writing grants, then do those things. This, I think, is the use of magic and magical thinking in the form that I'm discussing it for artists. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. And if you'd like to see other topics addressed here, please don't hesitate to comment and ask.